Welcome to the AFC East Shakedown on the Mafia Sports Report channel. We are back. Finally, football is back. And, man, I got to say, guys, week one already, like the first two games were bangers. Like the NFL did us right, in my opinion.
Except for the field in Brazil.
Yeah, that was bad. But the game play was great. The Chiefs, I thought, man, down to the wire, down to the end. Same with the Eagles. Packers game was really, really competitive. So I thought they did us right by at least those two games to start the season. But we're here for the AFC East, man. So joining us below, we're going to start with the new guys here today. Zach is representing the Patriots this year, and we got Anthony representing the Jets. So what's up, fellas, man? Thank you so much for joining us this season. And guys, you're going to get to know these guys today. And we're going to start around the room first. So let's start with Zach. Oh, by the way, real quick, Curtis, Captain D. Captain D is in the building. It's been a long time since Captain D has been in the building. So thank you, Captain D, for joining us today. And Curtis is back for another season. Curtis, thank you for joining us.
Finally got the numbers over here. 2 Dolphin fans to single digits and the rest.
I know you guys are, man, what's up with that, man? So anyways, let's start with the guys below. Let's start with Zach since we're the newbies. First of all, Zach, I guess we'll get into you. How long have you been a Patriots fan, and what got you into doing this podcast thing?
Yeah, so I've been a Patriots fan since about 2009, 2010, when I was about 2 years old. A little bit younger than most sports reporters or journalists or people of that nature, but I just fell in love with the sport from the first moment that I had watched it. I went to my first Patriots training camp practice. Since then, I've gone to every one that was open to the public in Foxborough. So that's kind of how I got into it. And that just really led me into a desire for sports reporting. Then you guys reached out to me about doing this, and I jumped right on the opportunity. I can't wait to get to talk to you guys a little bit more and just do this every week.
Awesome, man. Hey, man, welcome to the fan, man. We appreciate you guys. And as you guys know, everybody that's joining us or going to join us or watching this, the recap of this, if you missed it live, just like years past, we're going to be going to each channel. So next week, we're going to Zach's channel. And Zach, where can they find you? And I'm going to put his information, by the way. Everybody's, including Anthony, Curtis, I already have your information in my profile on the YouTube. But where can they find you, just in case they don't know where to go on my YouTube channel to find that?
Yeah, so that'll be found on Twitter, NE Patriots Today, NE as in New England. And it might stream it on YouTube as well. We'll have to figure that one out, but definitely it will be live on Twitter, and that's where I am probably most active. That and Instagram, which is Pats.today. That right there.
All right, so I'll tweet that out, guys, next week. If it is strictly on Twitter and however that works, but we should be on YouTube as well. I'll talk to Zach after to get that worked out. Anthony, what's up with you, man? How long you been a Jets fan, and what got you into this podcast game?
So basically, I've been a Jet fan since birth. My father came over from Italy, and that was around the time that Joe Namath was along with the Jets, and he remembers the Super Bowl III, and he brought me along for the ride, like it or not, through all the misery it's been for such a long time. But I remember my father season tickets when I was around 3 years old. Nice. Been a fan ever since.
Very cool.
Nice. And what made you get into the podcast game, man? You're just tired of the other people, or you just motivated enough to do it?
No, all those guys are a lot of fun too. But I think I just always had an interest in kind of giving my own opinion, giving my own insight on a lot of what's going on. Don't always agree with people, and that's the beauty of what we do, and just putting our disagreements out there and just see how the general public reflects on that.
There you go. All right, so what I want to do this first episode of the Shakedown, man, we're going to go around the room. We're going to talk about the offseason, right? And then we'll preview this weekend's game after. So we're going to start with the top of the room here. We're going to start with Curtis first, and then Captain D work our way around. So Curtis, the Dolphins, talk about the offseason, what you like, what you didn't like, the draft, all that good stuff, all the offseason stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Put you on the spot.
So the thing, I'm the guy that talks about the offensive line and trenches, and I'm kind of oldish sort of school. And so the Dolphins decide to go into this like avant-garde, test all the foundational principles of football, and like basically just blindly throw stuff at the offensive line, and then just make the rest of the stuff as far as a skill position on the offense out of this world. You know, I've been watching since 1978. I don't think I ever remember a team having this much skill, talent, and speed. It's kind of staggering when you got a guy like Jonnu Smith. Last year, he got 6.6 leverage yards, and he's your fourth guy, really. You got H.N., 2.428. You got Hill, who's, 1 second 40. You got Waddle. Then you throw OBJ in whenever he shows up. It's unbelievable, but this offensive line scares me. I like Weaver a lot. I think that his talent pool that he's getting is way more suited for him than Fangio. Fangio is intellectually driven on defense. This is more of an attack style, Flores, blitz, simplistic athletic style. I like that, but I hated losing Christian Wilkins. I hated losing Hunt. I like the addition of Fuller. I love the addition of John. I've been banging the table for TN for a while. So it's a mixed bag. It's like we decided we were a very finesse team, and then we added more speed and talent to it, but then we kind of got even smaller. It's like we're like Bruce Lee with a little bit of a glass jaw, but I think we could take anybody in the right circumstances. I just don't know if we could take the best teams in hostile environments and in bad weather. And for me, it's nerve-wracking. It's very, because in one sense, if it works, I'm totally wrong and I'm totally happy. And if it doesn't work, then I'm right and I'm totally unhappy. So for me, I'd rather be wrong and us win, but I don't know, man. So I got Ajita, and that's what.
So what would you grade your offseason, as far even including free agents and draft? What would you give?
You got to make this hard, man.
Hey, got hard questions, man.
If Greer's right, it's an A+. If he's wrong, it's a D-. It's like, because this season's going to either be 2 wins in a postseason and shock everybody and show everybody this is a special team and was a brilliant design, or it's going to flop. So I have to give it a double grade. So it's either going to be A+ or it's going to be like a D- or something, because there's no middle ground. There's no middle ground now. We need at least 1 playoff win and really 2. So that's my grade.
All right. Captain D, man, it's been a while since you've been on here. So I'm sure you got something to say. Talk to us about the offseason. Same thing. Offseason, what you graded. Give me the good and bad, man. I know you got something.
Oh, man. It's tough following up Curtis because he hits on so many different points in the Dolphins offseason. So it's tough to piggyback off of that. But I'll start on this point is that the Dolphins offseason, I want to say is, and I'll use this term loosely, is dogs. They were looking for leadership and that dog and bully mentality, and they went after it in a different way as far as older veteran players, Jordan Poyer, Calais Campbell. They were addressing some issues on the team where we were looking as being soft. But with that, and signing these free agents comes with the longevity of these players throughout the season. And as we all know, the Dolphins fell very, very short towards the end of the season. We struggled heavily in December. Now, granted, we can say injuries. Injuries had a big part of that. But the offseason was a little bit, skeptical if you're a real Dolphins fan. If you look at the draft, we went after Chop Robinson, defensive end. Is he going to be that full 3-down player? He's probably not going to be that right now. He's a situational defensive end that's going to come out. Can he set the edge? We addressed left tackle, Granite Fair. Teron Armstead is probably at his end of, at the short tail end of his career. But a lot of moves that they did were very, very, questionable, to say the least. Not drafting a backup center. Aaron Brewer right now is playing, going into game 1 with the injured hand. We're looking at Liam Eichenberg right now as a right guard to fill in that spot, God forbid. So a lot of questionable issues going on with the Dolphins and what they made in the offseason. I do like some of the moves. We brought in a lot of veteran leadership, quote unquote, but we got to see how it's going to pan out.
And what do you grade the offseason? So Curtis gave it an A- or a D- or A+ or D-. What would you grade your? Are you going the same route he is, or are you just going to go with one grade?
I'm going to go with one grade right now. I'm going to go with a B. I'm going to say a B. We lost a lot during the offseason, Christian Wilkins. And you know what? To be honest with you, I really don't blame them. If the Raiders want to pay that type of money for Christian Wilkins, then, go ahead. The only problem with that is finding that quote unquote salt and pepper mix with Zach Sealer, with Christian Wilkins. They had a great bond together and they were meshing quite a bit. Right now we have Benito Jones that's going to hopefully step in with Zach Sealer. It's Benito Jones. Let's see what happens. But I'm going to give it a B. Odell Beckham, he's not going to be able to be available after week 4. Marcus May, he's a veteran. He's been hurt. He was with the Jets previously. He's got some experience. Let's see where that goes. The linebackers, Anthony Walker Jr. I mean, there's a lot of question marks here. To be honest with you, what Curtis' remark was, this can be either an A+, or it can be flat out a D or an F. You know what I mean? It all depends on health. But you know what? I'm going to say B for what we had to deal with at that time with salary cap and what we were doing. I'm going to give it a B. Let's see what. I'm going to be positive.
Fair enough. And then, by the way, I want to shout out to everyone that's so far in the chat. So Beth, Nickel City Mafia, my buddy. By the way, Nickel City Mafia, go over their channel, subscribe. He's a really good friend of mine. His name's Mike. He runs that channel over there. And then you also got Jessica. She's a regular as well. Ohio against the world as well. And Bills fan 1970. Thank you so much. And we're waiting on Scott. Scott said Captain D wasn't going to show up. And guess who didn't show up so far? Scott. So
yep.
I don't know. Nickel City Mafia coming in, and we're going to get to Zach right now. But he says, I think the person who has the hardest job on this show is Zach. Looking forward to hearing from him. And that's true. That's true. So Zach, come on, man. What you got for us, man? Same question. All season. Grade. Give me that.
Yeah, it was a different offseason from the Patriots. Obviously, starting out with a mutual parting of ways with Bill Belichick, also known as firing him, and then hiring Gerard Mayo as the head coach and Elliott Wolf as the not official GM with his title, but he is the GM. I like Mayo as a coach. I like Wolf as a GM. I like the whole coaching staff that they have built. I think that it is a new culture, obviously, where we don't have Bill Belichick, the mouth closed, just straight up football, and only football. Gerard Mayo is a little bit more of a players type of coach, but I mean, it's hard to say it's a great offseason when you fire the greatest coach of all time. Going into the offseason, and I guess free agency more specifically, didn't really get that splash signing that you would hope for a team to make. They were obviously in on Calvin Ridley up until the end when he signed with the Titans. They were pretty competitive with their offer from what was reported. And then they just did a great job, I would say, of retaining their in-house talent and building a culture, building a expectation that if you are a homegrown player in New England, you are going to get rewarded with a new contract, an extension, or just, I guess, in general, a new deal. So we saw Kyle Duggar get re-signed, Mike Onwenu get re-signed, extensions to Jawan Bentley, Hunter Henry re-signed, Kendrick Bourne, guys like that who have been in New England for their whole career or have really been in New England for the last few years and have made a name for themselves more than before. So that I love in terms of building a culture. And the draft, I think they nailed it. Drake May, I loved him as a prospect. I think that he has looked great and he will be the starter sooner rather than later. The two receivers they drafted, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, both are dogs. Love Polk. I think he is going to probably be the team's best receiver this season. The two linemen that they drafted haven't really gotten a ton of opportunities. I think that is the one thing the Patriots haven't done super well this offseason is giving their rookies opportunities and chances to win starting jobs. Polk has really just recently been a starter, even though he was kind of established as the best receiver pretty early on. Wallace, I thought that he's looked good, but he hasn't really gotten many starting looks. Layden Robinson in the final. So I think in general, I would give the Patriots offense somewhere in the B to B plus range. Again, there's not that splash that you want. Patriots didn't get Brandon Ayuk. They didn't get Calvin Ridley, but they did retain all of their good players. They did have a really good draft, and because of that, I would give it around that B to B plus range.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Anthony, man, talk to the same question, man.
All righty, man. I mean, I'm going to go a little bit here. So I give the Jets basically an A on everything that they accomplished this offseason. Basically going into last year, outside of the Aaron Rodgers move, obviously bringing him in from Green Bay, I wasn't overly thrilled with everything they did around that. I feel like they put way too many eggs into the basket of Aaron Rodgers last year. Didn't address the offensive line like I would have liked. Didn't address backup quarterback like I would have liked. They brought in Dalvin Cook, which I wasn't a huge fan of the move. Obviously, he was out there on the streets for a long time, and there's probably a reason for that. If he was good enough, somebody would have picked him up. Look at Saquon Barkley, who was on the streets for a couple days. Eagles paid him big time, and he was there. The Jets literally this offseason did the exact opposite. They went everything right. The offensive line has been completely overhauled. They needed to get 3 starting players, and they got 4 when you consider the offensive tackle. He'll have a big role in the guy they got in the draft. Tyron Smith coming in there as a left tackle, future Hall of Famer, veteran leadership. He's going to come in, and he's going to groom a mostly young offensive line. When you look at the players they have on there, John Simpson, a guy that I wasn't familiar with going into the offseason. When they got him, did a quick PFF lookup. The news didn't come out looking positive. But when you watch his film, he's just a mauler in the run game, and that's really what the Jets need. They're going to be a team that's heavy on the run. They're going to operate behind Breece Hall. They upgraded the running back room through the draft, brought in a guy, Braylon Allen, in the 4th or 5th round, whenever they got him. And he just looks like a beast. He looks like somebody who's going to come in there and be a good complement to Breece Hall. Dalvin Cook was a similar speed, kind of having that juke to him, but he lost a step. Braylon Allen comes in. He's a complimentary guy. He's going to come in, pound the rock, and give Breece Hall that breather and give the defense a little bit more, something to look at, because when you're running after Breece Hall all game, it's going to get tiring after a while. And when you get tired, that's when the power comes in. The wide receiver position, I was not a huge fan of Allen Lazard being our number 2 wide receiver last year. And obviously, when teams are keying in on Garrett Wilson, you need someone else to make a play. They did not have that guy. They brought in Mike Williams this offseason, drafted a guy in the 3rd round, Malachi Corley. I know he's a little bit behind right now, from my understanding of where they would like him to be, but it was expected. He was kind of a raw route runner. It'll take time, but he has that time now because the Jets are pretty solid at the top 4 receiver spots. And then you run down the line. I would say the only major red flag I would give the Jets on this offseason was the handling of the defensive line, especially losing Bryce Huff, which I kind of envisioned that was going to be the case. He is a guy that wants more snaps. He wanted to get paid for his production over the last few years. I just don't think the Jets were going to give him the more snaps, not the way Saleh operates. And I don't think they were going to meet his pay demands. Eagles came in with an offer. I think the Jets could have met that offer, but Eagles, are going to probably give him more of a snap count increase than the Jets are able to do. And then obviously trading for Hassan Reddick, when it happened, I was thrilled, but obviously that holdout has lingered way too long. It makes no sense to me why the holdout is still going on. He carries no leverage right now, and the Jets have made it clear to him they're not going to trade him. We're not going to sign you until you're in the building. And him and his agent has made it clear we're not going to go to the building without a contract. So we'll see where that one goes. I feel like where the Jets really kind of screwed that situation up. They already lost Bryce Huff, and after trading for Reddick, then also trading away John Franklin Myers, that would probably be the situation where the Jets inadvertently gave Hassan Reddick leverage in this whole offseason. They had to make the move, couldn't fit both players under the salary cap in that situation. So I understand that, but maybe wait until he comes into the building before you make that adjustment. But outside of that, I mean, I'm overly thrilled with what the Jets have done this offseason. And I just think we'll see how it goes. It's all on paper right now, but I'm thrilled with what happened.
All right. We got a super chat coming in from Nickel City Mafia, my buddy. Nice. Says, great job, Zach. Great show, guys. Someone check Zach's birth certificate as he doesn't look like he's 18 yet.
Because I'm not. 17. Close enough, though.
There you go. See? So there we go. A little bit of information. We also got, let's see here, Beth coming in. Anthony, from a Jets perspective, there's tons of rumors that Rodgers is killing the vibes in the locker room. Is there any truth there?
Come on. I can't imagine that to be true at all. I mean, he's been a model citizen since he's been with the Jets. I mean, he showed up to basically every offseason workout. There was a period of time where he missed the mandatory portion of the minicamp. He had prior obligation, missed it, but he was there for the entire involuntary portion. That whole perspective gets missed. You look at the vibes. I mean, you see all these videos, all these clips come out where it almost looks like he's yelling at players and this and that. But when you really kind of take the moment to actually view what's going on, it's no different than what other veteran quarterbacks do with their key players. You get into them, you get into their minds, you communicate, and that's how you're going to build. That's how you're going to progress. That's how this team is going to develop. Because let's be honest, this team has Super Bowl aspirations. They're all in. Whether it be this year, next year, they're all in on this small window with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And he's working with a very young team overall. Garrett Wilson is in his third year. The offensive line has now veteran players. Mike Williams, in his fifth year, sixth year. These are all players that maybe haven't operated in a winning formula like he has his entire career. And he's trying to get them to that point. The Jets have been in misery for the last 13 years. Haven't made the playoffs once in that span since they made it to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years. It comes a point where that shit's got to change, and the only way it's going to change is, with that veteran quarterback player. It's going to happen.
Winning usually helps. Ken, there's a question from Ken to Zach. We're going to get into the preview of the games, and then I'll get into your question, Ken. This way he can answer that when we're talking about the Patriots matchup versus the Bengals. So I won't forget your question. I'll go back to it once we get into that. The only thing I would say, Anthony, the only thing about Aaron Rodgers. Now, of course, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the guy personally, and I don't know if it's any truth to it. But it just seems like coaches and him aren't always on the same page. And your coach, your current coach, is a bit right out there a little bit. And I just wonder if that's ever, you see that ever being a problem, because it was a problem in Green Bay, right? It was. I mean, that's the way it worked out. So, do you find it being a problem like in the future or this season where they're just not on the same page because Rodgers has dealt with that before? And if that's the case, can it kind of mess this team up? I know you guys got Super Bowl, aspirations and all that, but sometimes a coach and a quarterback, if they're not on the same page, it can kind of really ruin that relationship and ruin a team. So I'm just curious on how that relationship is.
I think that's fair. So, obviously, Rodgers, he got there, McCarthy was the head coach. They won a Super Bowl together. The relationship kind of fell out at the end of it all. McCarthy left, obviously went to Dallas. LaFleur came in, and they drafted Love in the second year instead of building around Rodgers, because Rodgers still felt like he had it, which rightfully so. He won MVP. They drafted a quarterback. I mean, from his perspective, you could see where that kind of, looks wrong potentially. While for the Green Bay perspective, you got to build for the future. So I think that situation maybe rubbed him the wrong way, but still, with that situation, they still made it to the conference championship game again. I think it just fell out of favor when he signed that long-term extension, 3-year contract with them. And then days later, they trade away Devontae Adams. Where I think your question comes in with the whole Robert Saleh and their relationship. Let's be honest here. Rodgers had all the control of where he was going, and last offseason, he kind of handpicked the staff. He kind of handpicked, say what you want about Hackett, but the Jets brought him in as a way to lure Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I mean, that was basically a way of, Hackett is not a great offensive coordinator. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. I mean, we haven't seen to this point there being any situation to say the otherwise. I mean, we'll see when the games start, but I don't foresee that being an issue. This is 100% his team. The coach, it's 100% his team. On the defensive side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers, our offense coordinator, by virtue of just being Aaron Rodgers. And I don't see that being an issue so much as, maybe it's being projected.
And the rest of the East want to know, have you guys fixed your damn shitty-ass turf yet?
No.
So people can stop getting hurt over there
Nope.
in New Jersey? No? Oh,
Nope.
Wow. Well, I wish you the best, Aaron
Do
Rodgers.
they have a game for the World Cup?
They did. They only for the so not for the World Cup. Whatever Copa America they did where Messi was on the field, they did put grass in for Messi, but not for their football team.
Yikes! That's thank God our new stadium being built in it'll be open in 2026. Grass, thank God. That turf is terrible, and your turf, and I cannot believe how many people got hurt last year. And by the way, it was new turf. The NFL told you guys change it. The turf before was no good. You changed it. It seems like it even got worse. But I'd never like to see obviously any player get hurt. But I wish Aaron Rodgers well. When you have so many players claiming grass is better than turf, why are these owners so adamant on continuing?
It's cheaper. I think the turf is cheaper.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yep,
it's cheaper because they could do events and all that other crap. Mm-hmm. When there's no football going on, grass is they have to maintain it. But still, it's $1 billion. And league, put it to grass. But I think eventually it will go. The way the NFL seems to be changing everything for player safety, it probably. Oh, whoa! Scott Blakely in the house, Captain D.
Scott, what's going on, brother?
Hey, I told you Scott Blakely, Captain D would be here. Curtis and Captain D, or anyone here. You have any questions around the room that you guys want to ask about anybody else's team besides me?
Yeah, one thing I'm seeing that Strange, the guard from Pats, he's not looking like he's getting the starting position. He's been demoted. He's officially a bust. He's been relinquished to the back end.
Yes and no. He is probably not going to have a starting spot, but he's also injured. He's still recovering from I don't remember the exact injury, but something that happened towards the end of last year.
So it's injury related.
Starting out on PUP. Yeah, starting out on, I believe, PUP, probably won't be back until the middle of the season.
Oh, okay.
But by now, there's no place in the starting lineup for him anyways.
Really?
I would not be shocked. Yeah, I mean, they have City So is a sophomore now.
Yeah.
He looked really good in his rookie year.
He's big,
too. They have
too.
Onwenu there. Yep. They have Onwenu there at the other guard spot, so Cole Strange doesn't really have a place. But Gerard Mayo did mention that when he's back, he might take practice reps at center and be potentially the backup center. So once David Andrews retires, Cole Strange could be in that position because I believe he did play a little bit of center in college.
All right, cool. Just wondering. Thanks, brother.
Good question, Curtis.
Probably nothing within the next year or two.
Yeah, that's fine now.
Anybody else have any questions about any of the East teams that you guys want to throw out there?
I got a question for the Dolphins, guys. News came out yesterday with the extension of Jalen Ramsey, 29-year-old guy, hitting up there and making him the highest paid corner in the league. What do you guys think about that? I mean, especially in a situation like you guys mentioned earlier, Christian Wilkins, letting him walk out because of cap reasons, and then you go ahead and pay Jalen Ramsey at an older age when corners are usually starting to fall off. What do you guys view on that?
I'll start with you, Curtis, and then go to Captain D after.
Well, I think it's great because he was like injured and he wasn't practicing, and then the money came and he's like, I'm practicing, I've been healed. Hallelujah. I mean, so listen, when I do this evaluation thing, I go from my perspective and like how I view things, and I create a box for that. And I say, well, hey, look, this is my perspective, this is my evaluation. But then I try to like view it from the people who are running the show, because they're the guys running the show. I'm the monkey doing this thing here. So I create a second box. And if from my box, it's like, no, that's not the right move. I would have gone 2 years ago, I'd have signed Hunt for 20 million, 21 million, or whatever we could have got. I would have signed maybe 19 or 18, and I would have signed Wilkins for 22, 23. But we didn't go that route. So for me to go back and say that, it kind of beat a dead horse. So my box is not this box, but this box right here, you're all in. And you can't go into this season with Jalen going, man, the hamstring's not feeling right till about week 6 when I start getting docked because the season's over. So they decided to trade for Jalen. He's a good cornerback, but he was injured half of last year. He's injured now a little bit this year. And you're right. It's like, Darrell Green's the only guy who could play into his mid to late 30s and still be cooking. But he was one of the fastest guys ever in the history of the game. So Jalen Ramsey isn't that guy. Jalen Ramsey's the guy who forced his way off Jacksonville. He had problems with the Rams. He's a malcontent when he doesn't get what he wants. He was the one screaming about Fangio last year, whether it was right or wrong. It's like a continuous. So you got no choice because you got to go into the season. You've billed Weaver as the good guy and Fangio as the bad guy. You've put yourself in a position where you've got to win. So there's no other alternative. Will this play out good in the long run? I mean, it's not trending in the right way. I mean, we got to wait to see how the health plays out. Right. If he's healthy for 2 more seasons, it's worth it. But if we don't win anything and he's not healthy, then it's another questionable move.
Captain D, man, your thoughts. I know you wanted to talk about this, right, Captain D? About the salary cap and all that crap going on in Miami.
Well, as far as Ramsey, I mean, a lot of the reports coming out of camp was that Ramsey was very, very one of these guys that was big on being a dog and we need to change our mentality and, be these bullies going into this season. And the common direction that I'm seeing right now with the Dolphins is that they're desperately trying to change their identity. Mike McDaniel gets an extension. Jalen Ramsey, all of a sudden, even though he's supposedly is dealing with a hamstring injury and might not play tomorrow, is dealing with an injury. Re-sign Jalen Ramsey to make him the highest paid cornerback in league history. Let me repeat that. I mean, that's great. That's crazy. Jalen Ramsey is 30 years old.
It's 4D chess, D.
Yeah.
7D chess.
So the Miami Dolphins are desperately trying to. We've made so many financial decisions this offseason, restructuring Tyreek Hill, getting rid of younger and some veteran players, and bringing in some veteran players also. And we're trying to change our identity here, and where that whole realm and that aspect is of why they've made these decisions on giving Jalen Ramsey this extension, and re-signing Mike McDaniel and signing to this contract extent, or re-signing Tua, is there's a lot of question marks. So Jalen Ramsey, you know what? I think he might be worth it at the tail end of his career if he can instill some other type of mentality towards this Dolphins defense. Let's
crossing
see.
Everything, man. My eyes too.
Yep.
I don't know, man. It's all. Listen, it's always a risk when you give these big contracts.
Yeah.
You never. Always. Injuries happen. I mean, for in the case like for the Buffalo Bills, for instance, like love Matt Milano. We gave him a contract and he's hurt 2 years back to back. It's like, what do you do? Now you're eating all that money, but you got to roll the dice. You got to, sometimes you just, sometimes it's bad luck. There's not much more than that other than bad luck, man.
The thing is, though, we doubled up with Chubb too. We spent big money on Chubb and picks.
But I would say though, paying an older player that kind of money is really risky.
Like Von Miller, right?
Like Von Miller. Hey,
boy,
it's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I will say, at least for Von, he did take the pay cut this year. So he's doing more for incentives. So he has to earn kind of his money now, right, this year. But it's true. You're absolutely right. He started off great, got hurt, and it was a shell of himself last year. So we're not even a shell. He was nothing last year because it takes a while to get back, recover from injuries like that when you're aging, especially when you're aging in the NFL. It's just not, it's not a league for older players to sustain, right? Like it's not long run. That's right. So, yeah, man, there's like how many Bruce Smiths of the world are out there that can get injured and wind up not getting injured again for the, 15 plus years, right? Like it's rare, very rare. So yeah, but I don't know, man. I think the Tua contract, I guess I'll talk to you guys about that. The Tua contract is a little scary for me if I'm a Dolphin fan. I don't think I talked to you guys about that yet, Curtis and Captain D. Like, for me, it's like a guy, like I would be nervous as a Dolphin fan and even the GM, for signing him to that extension because he almost retired, right? A guy that's been injured throughout high school and college and getting banged up early in the NFL, almost retiring and then staying. And I'm glad it's worked out. And I think Tua is a really good quarterback. I do. So I'm not shitting on Tua. I just feel like he's like one step away again from getting a back concussion again, because that's just the way his career's gone. And going back to that, am I right for the NFL? Should I stay? Should I leave? And he's getting paid. So, Curtis, what is your thoughts on that? Was it the right move, or was it just the move you had to make because it's tough to find a quarterback? You don't want to go through that cycle again of looking for a quarterback.
Again, it's the boxes. I got my box. My box, I would have built a better offensive line, not top 5, but I would have actually made it not the 7 Stooges. I would have built it reasonably. I would have gone and found myself an excellent tight end. I'd have kept Waddle or Hill, and then I would have got myself a big possession receiver, ran the ball more and pass bounds. So I take the injury plate off the table for Tua, give him better play action to use his quick release, give him better protection where he's not forced to throw it 1 second, and I think it would have been fine. I think it's so hard to find quarterbacks. You go back and you can look.
Absolutely.
I mean, even look at the one a couple of years ago. Was it 2022? You got Skylar Thompson, our guy. He was the second to last pick, and he's the guy. He's got more action than anybody else except for Purdy, who was the last guy picked. It's so hard to find quarterbacks. You could see even with the Broncos, they were green by spending, top picks collection for Wilson. They had money tied to it. Now they're back in the saddle. They made a good move. They found a quarterback, got the right coach. Dolphins raised ticket prices like 100% on some people, 30% across the board. They had to win. What are they going to do? You got to keep that quarterback. To me, it's like, okay, you got this quarterback. He's been injured. You spent all this money. Why do you have Lester Cotton, Liam Eichenberg, Robert Jones, and then Meyer, who's UDFA, is your backup, and that's what you got. And even Austin Jackson, you're paying $12 million. I mean, Morgan Moses went to Baltimore a couple of years ago for $5 million, and he's double the player. He went back to the Jets, I think, for $3 or $4 million. He's double the player. So the guy who constructed this team is the guy who did everything, and he says, okay, we're going to protect you by throwing the ball really fast. But what happens when you can't? Then you put the guy's health, any quarterback's health, in jeopardy, and then you cripple their chances to win in the big game, which is the knock on the kids. So to me, it goes back to the brass. Dolphin fans in general, Dolphins media in general, wants to take Brian Flores, who made mistakes 100%, but he's the scapegoat. Everything. Back in 1969, they lost because Brian Flores, he was the one who had the laces out in Marino and Ace Ventura, like everything, no matter what, even though Ross and Greer and the rest had dysfunction for a decade before that. And so to me, it's their leadership. Again, if it works out, they're genius.
I got you. I'm gonna get to you, Captain D, on the same.
Sorry, man. It's
that's
a
okay. No, I love it. I love
hot issue.
I love it. Scott Blakely with Super Chat. Thank you so much, Scott. Welcome, Zach and Anthony. I can't wait to hear your takes. No delusional takes allowed. Curtis and Captain D already know. Bills taking division for 5th year. Curtis, Von Miller will have 12 sacks, 3 on the Fins.
Curtis, I thought you said Scott no delusional takes, and then you say the Bills are taking the division.
And he's paying money. He can say whatever he wants. 75 sacks.
He's right on. He's right on the division. He's right on the division. Captain D, talk to us about the Tua signing, man. You happy with it?
Am I happy with it? I'm gonna say I'm gonna be positive when I say I am happy about it. And I think this is a 2-part answer right here, is that as a fan, if you've been watching the Miami Dolphins and what Tua's been doing, you would probably say, am I willing to commit to a quarter? If I were in Stephen Ross's shoes, would I commit to Tua Tagovailoa? And you can go 50-50 with that. The second part to this is that Mike McDaniel and what we're seeing now with the Dolphins brass is that he's thinking more out of the box, and a lot of these shift formations, and we saw this in game 1 with Kansas City, is that so many penalties were called as far as these little shifts, and the Dolphins have those packages that they're going to be incorporating with their offense. So I truly believe that the Miami Dolphins brass is like, hey, we have this guy in Mike McDaniel. We're listening to you. You have a vision. Is Tua the guy for you? And if he's saying yes, they're believing it. They've extended Tua. They've extended McDaniel, OBJ. These are bold moves. They are fully bought into Mike McDaniel and whatever he says. So I'm going to be positive and say, hey, if your system that you have is what you believe in and you want to move forward with that, then let's fucking go. So I'm going to say yes. Let's go.
That's fair. I'm with you, man. Like we did a me and Mikey, because they brung out that quarterback list, like top 10 or something like that. And I believe I had like Tua. I might have had him in the top 5, at least on my list, and nobody else did. Like I think Tua is a really good core. I do, man. I think he has a good arm. He has good accuracy. The only knock I guess I would give on Tua, besides his health, right, which whatever, would be when like games get super tight. I haven't seen him go take that next step. Like I've seen him, he's made some big mistakes. He's kind of folded like under pressure and tight moments. But if their moments aren't tight and things are going well, Tua's electric. Like Tua's making, you guys are everything's going right, but it just seems like when things start to get a little bit tight, like the Tennessee game we'll go back to, he kind of just like goes in this shell, and it's a little like, and as Dolphin fans, you got to hope, if I was a Dolphin fan, that changes, that he takes that next step forward, because I don't know what it is. It's kind of like our coach, right? Our coach is the same way. His coaches are the same way. Like they fold under pressure. I feel like my coach is the same way. Things get tight. They just make bad decisions and overthink things, and it's just not good. So that's the only thing I would say about Tua is when things get tight, he gets a little bit flustered and makes some poor decisions.
Wait. Yeah. I will say this is that, as we all know, the whole Brian Flores situation came out with Tua, and
that's great that you bring that up.
Nobody here is in the locker room or any personal interactions. What's been going on personally between them? But hey, we're going to take Tua's word for it and say, okay, Brian Flores, he came out, he apologized. Maybe that might have not really been. Obviously, that wasn't great for Tua in that situation, in his confidence. The only thing I can say is from what I'm seeing in the media, and Tua, this is the most outspoken person I've seen in the whole time that he's been on this franchise. So he's very outspoken, seems very confident. Maybe that might be a change. Who knows? I mean,
so you think Flores got into his head so much, even when he was playing with a new coach and hella talent, top 10 receivers, that he still was in his head, Flores. Like I don't believe. I believe it when he was there with Flores. I could see that 100%. But you got an owner who tried to ship him out. So it's not just Flores. The owner was calling.
No, it was Brian Flores. He was in total control. He told the billionaire, "You got to do this. You're going to find me again this season, but I got the power."
Curtis
Ross didn't do anything.
Yeah, right.
Neither agree.
So, my point is, like, I'm the one thing I will
Hannibal
say,
Flores Lecter.
Yeah, I will say this
didn't
though.
Ross have Didn't Ross take Tom Brady on a boat and stuff like that while Tua was
there? No. That was all Brian Flores. Jimmy Hoffa disappeared. Go look in Brian Flores' basement. He's there.
I will say this though. That I will say this though. His confidence probably did gain some, Captain D, when he got a coach that believed him. That I can go with. Like, he probably is playing in a little bit better confidence, knowing that the guy believes in him. Like, yeah, I can believe in that. But last year, like I said, he was coached with McDaniels, and he made some crucial mistakes down the stretch.
Listen, Tommy.
Yeah.
What is more critical for a quarterback's success? The offensive line being the 45th best offensive line of football, or not your coach not believing in you? I mean, you go back and you go back.
Offensive line, 100%.
Oh yeah, you go back and Terry Bradshaw said that Nolan hated Nolan. He was always calling him an idiot, calling him a failure, and they won 4 Super Bowls. So I clearly believe Flores took what was going on with him, with Greer and Ross, and took it out onto at a certain point. He was the whipping boy for the people at the top, and then he took it out onto, and he was wrong. But at the end of the day, that offensive line was the worst offensive line. This year's offensive line had the worst true pass blocking, pro set pass blocking grade in 14 years by a country mile. We were top 3 in the 3 top pass rush mitigating play calls, play action, screens, and time to throw. All those things make the framework for the quarterback much harder than what happened 2 years ago. To me, that should have been the main thing. Yes, when he was there, Flores was a jerk. He was doing the wrong thing. But it's 2 years since then, and the offensive line is going down. It was terrible in 21, got a little better in 22. They screwed over Connor Williams, who's starting week 1 now. They let Hunt go. And now, 23, it kind of dropped off the injuries, and everyone said the offensive line was bad for injuries. But all those guys are injured are no longer here, and this offensive line's worse. Not as bad as 21, but it's worse than 22. So I don't know.
No,
I'm sorry. I can't. I gotta stop talking.
I am 100%. I think offensive line is the most, probably second most important position.
Josh Allen knows that, right?
Yeah, bro. The offensive line is everything. Like, if you cannot pass protect, I don't care who you got back there. They are in some deep shit. If you got a good offensive line, a average quarterback can look pretty damn good.
Well, let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last year, when Miami Dolphins fans were worried, whatever, if you were a beat reporter, national whatever it might be, we were concerned about the offensive line. GM Chris Greer came out and said, "Well, you guys are the only ones that are." Basically said the same exact thing this year. But what I'm thinking is maybe we're not thinking out of the box like how they are.
Well, maybe they're nuts. We'll see.
We'll see. Aaron Brewer, who they picked up from the Tennessee Titans, not known for his pass blocking, but more for his rush blocking. They bring him on. I thought that move was skeptical, but let's see. Maybe they're thinking completely out of the box more than we are.
Yeah, I think it's going to be total brilliant. Listen, this is my quote. The road less traveled made all the difference. For the few, most of them took the road less traveled, were eaten by bears and pooped out. So we'll find out. It didn't make all the difference, or are they going to get pooped out? That's really the deal. There's no in between.
Anybody else have any other questions for anyone's team around here before we move on to the games this weekend?
We gotta get your grade for those.
Oh, I thought we were gonna just move on. So our off season was interesting. I thought Bean had to do what he had to do as far as letting some important guys walk. You got it. It's just, I always tell people, man, like, this is like we just talked about earlier. This is a young man's sport, man. And unfortunately, when you get up there in age and injuries happen, sometimes you gotta let those guys walk, even if they're homegrown guys or guys you drafted. And it sucks because some of these guys are great guys. Trey White was an awesome dude. Like he was our very first draft pick. We traded Patrick Mahomes essentially for Trey White, who Trey White was very good at one point, right? He was an all-pro, but injuries caught up, and that's what happens. Back-to-back seasons, we paid him handsomely, but he's aging. You got to let him walk. You got to save some money. So it sucks losing guys like that, but at the same time, you got to do what's right for the team. Same thing with Jordan Poyer. Like, love Jordan Poyer. When he's healthy, even at his age, he still is an all-pro Poe. Like, I love him. He's a smart player, really good player, but he just, over the last 2-3 seasons, just cannot give a complete season. You got to let him walk. It's just the way it works, right? Micah Hyde, same thing. Like, he has a neck thing going on, right? Like, he's risking his life. Like, it's back-to-back years. He's had some serious neck issues. So he's retired for now. We'll see if he comes back, maybe, but I wouldn't expect it, guys. But yeah, you had to let some guys walk out the door, and then you got to go do the whole cycle again, drafting young guys to come in, fill position. And then you got Matt Milano getting hurt again. Sucks, but it is what it is. Next man up. That's why you draft these guys. Our safety position is a little shaky. Not going to lie. Damar Hamlin's getting the nod. Good for him. I'm excited to see what he can bring, but I'm also nervous as hell.
You should be.
You got two safeties back there now. Of course, Curtis, it's real. Like, I gotta keep it real. Like, our biggest question marks on this team, everyone thinks it's the offense. It's not. It's the defense, right? I think it's linebacker and safety. You got Taylor Rapp back there, who I like, but he's no Jordan Poyer or Mike.
Slow-footed.
Right?
He's not good. He's good at.
I don't think he's slow. No, you're wrong on that. He's not slow-footed. If you remember, he did a beautiful interception off playoffs. But anyways, he's not slow-footed. His problem is he plays super fast and way aggressive. Like, so he does a lot of friendly fire. He got hurt more than once last year, so he missed games last year. We can't afford any players getting hurt. So he's a little bit too aggressive with that. And then you got a guy next to him, and Damar Hamlin, who we'll see. Like, I always saw Damar as a rotational, a depth guy. But if he earned it, he earned it. But yeah, it's concerning because even if he doesn't work out, you got Edwards, who we got from the Chiefs, who's a veteran safety, who I thought was going to start. Was not the case. He missed most of the offseason. That's probably why. And then you got our rookie Bishop, who looks promising, but once again, he's a mid-round pick, and he got hurt as well. So DeMar's he earned it, but it's a question mark for 100%. I thought our draft went fine. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know a lot of people are shitting on our draft. We traded back. Worthy was never on the radar. He wasn't. So even if we didn't do that trade, we weren't going to draft Worthy. So Worthy would have been picked up regardless. If somebody would have got him, it wasn't going to be us. I'm excited about Keon Coleman. I did a video about Keon Coleman before the draft that the Bills should draft him. The one thing the Bills lacked over the last 3 seasons is drop percentage. We were top 5 over the last 3 seasons. Guys cannot hold the ball. Bad drop percentage, including Stephon Diggs, who had 10 last year, 8 the year before. We needed sure-handed guys. We needed to get bigger, physical. We got nothing but 6'5" guys now on our team. And that just shows me that Joe Brady is taking this approach as a more physical team. It's going to run the ball a lot more. So he wants bigger blockers downfield. And that's why we got so big at receiver. And we got sure-handed guys. I think Curtis Samuel's underrated. He's been with shitty quarterbacks pretty much his whole career. He's a gadget guy. He could do everything, like a Swiss Army. He's like, I consider him like a Deebo Samuel. He's an undersized Deebo Samuel, but he can provide a lot of everything. And that's exactly what you want on your team. A guy that could line up pretty much anywhere and make a play happen. Dalton Kincaid, I'm excited to see what year 2 brings. Dawson Knox is healthy. So we're going to be doing some 12 personnel. Like, I like that. And then James Cook, I'm not crazy about Cook, but he's going to get over 1,000 yards again, probably somewhere around that range. So yeah, I thought our offseason wasn't super exciting. We didn't have a lot of money to work with. We obviously traded Stephon Diggs, right, which I felt like needed to happen. The guy just wasn't, his heart wasn't in Buffalo anymore. He said it himself in an article he just did. He wasn't in the right mental spot. You could see the way he was last year. He was just out there. He was playing his best, but in a way, his heart wasn't for the team. So it was time to move on. If a guy doesn't want to be in your team, his heart's not for the team, you got to find a way, even if you have to eat the money. And that's what the Buffalo Bills did. They ate the money. They got rid of him. And we'll see what happens with him in his future. But we got guys like Khalil Shakir, who I'm excited to see as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for this team. It wasn't a crazy offseason. There wasn't any big splash signings, but there couldn't be. We were in salary cap hell, right? So we did do some extensions that I was happy with. Spencer Brown, right? You always want to get your offensive lineman. We just extended him 4 years, so that I'm happy about that. So that's more protection for Josh, and that's about it, man. So yeah, I would say I would grade our offseason a B-, C+, around there, because it wasn't anything crazy. But I think our GM did the best what he could work with, and the cap, the money he had to deal with. So that's where I give our grade.
I drafted Shakir in fantasy. Was that a good pickup, or do I have to? It was. All right. Good.
No, I think it was. So Khalil Shakir is underrated, man. So Khalil Shakir is going to get his opportunity, like Gabe Davis did, right? So when Gabe Davis, kind of remember when Gabe Davis had that breakout game against the Chiefs, he was our third option at that time. Yeah. He wasn't even our second option. So then he got that, and he played pretty well. I don't think Gabe Davis, like a lot of people shit on him too. I thought he had back-to-back 800-yard season. That's nothing like great, but I don't think it's terrible either. And he got paid. He went to Jacksonville. But I think Khalil Shakir is a sure-handed receiver, slot receiver. Josh trusts him. He's going to be the number one going into the season as far as receiver. I think Kincaid will still wind up getting the most targets and yards, but Shakir is sure-handed, bro. He's faster than what people think. He ran a 4.3, and he's just sure-handed, man. And I think Josh trusts him. Like, that's one thing about Josh Allen. But if you watch the Buffalo Bills, like once he builds that chemistry with you, he will go to you. He will continue to go with you and ride the hot hand. And Shakir proved that at the end of last season. If you saw the tail end of last season, Shakir was the guy. It wasn't Stephon Diggs. Shakir was taking all those catches away. And that's why I think it's another reason why Diggs was like, I see the writing on the wall. Like, I see what Joe Brady is starting. Like, I already see what the future holds. And Joe Brady's offense is not going to be about one guy. He's going to make it where everybody eats. 1 week could be this guy, 1 week could be that. Like, so he wants more of a balance, and also with the running game. So, and I don't think Stephon Diggs was into that. And he saw the writing on the wall as well. So they moved on. That's another reason why, too. I think Diggs wasn't happy towards the end of that season. But I will say this: we won games playing the offense that way, and we got far, and we played very well at the end. So whether people are crying that we didn't get a Diggs or not, the method was working. So we'll see what happens this year. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions before we move on? Nothing? Captain D? My man over there? No?
Oh, yeah, I got one question. Again, offensive line. La'el Collins got let go. How's the guy replacing him?
La'el Collins?
The rookie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like our offensive line. Like, we got
Edwards is
David
playing.
Edwards. Yeah, he's our
but isn't there like a rookie? I heard. I didn't get a chance to really study you guys.
SVP. So yeah, SVP is a center that we drafted out of Georgia, true center. I thought that they were gonna he could be. If it was up to me, Curtis, the only thing I think the Buffalo Bills did kind of wrong on the offensive line was moving McGovern to center. He was our weakest link last year at left guard, true. But I didn't think he was terrible either. Our offensive line actually took a massive improvement last year. We were healthy the whole season. I think we were one of 4 teams that had the same offensive line throughout the whole year. And bro, it's so important for these guys to be lined up next to the same guy year after year, right? You start to build that chemistry together, right? It's very important. The one thing about Deion Dawkins at left tackle is he's never had the same guy more than a year next to him. And he'll tell you, and he said it in interviews, it sucks. Like, it really sucks because you got to build that chemistry with the guy next to you, talk and all that. So by moving McGovern to center, now you got Edwards back next to Deion. I feel like it's musical chairs again, and I'm hoping it works out. But SVP from Georgia was that dude for Georgia. He's a true center. I would have preferred them to have at least a battle in camp with him and McGovern. And if SVP won it, cool. You stick back McGovern at left guard, and we're good to roll again. Because I did forget about that, actually, Curtis. We let Mitch Morse go.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Mitch Morse.
Jacksonville.
Yeah. Now, he's still a good center. He's not what he once was, but he's still a solid veteran center, and we needed to replace him. So I think listen, I trust our offensive line coach, Aaron Cromer, who's one of the best out there. And if he thinks that McGovern's that dude to take over, and he's been a center before. He was a center in Dallas. He did it a couple times, a center in college. So it's not like he doesn't have the experience, but I would have just liked for him to stay next to Deion Dawkins and the rookie at center. But I'm not the offensive line coach, and maybe the guy needs time. The rookie needs more time to develop, and that's fine too. But no,
our old center, Connor McGovern. You could have two Connor McGoverns on the same offensive line.
yeah. I don't know. I'm not crazy. I'll be honest. I'm not crazy. I'm not a big McGovern fan, but he's okay. I think he's definitely our weakest link. But I don't think he's terrible either at the same time. You know what I mean? We've had way worse. So other than that, like Osiris Torrance, I told you last year, Curtis, that was another pick that I said.
Yeah, you picked him. You called him last year.
That was another one. It was him and Keon. I did back to back. I was right on who they should pick. But Osiris Torrance is a beast, bro. He's only going to get better.
Oh, yeah.
He's a dog, dude. And then Spencer Brown is another guy he
really bounced back after that second season. He's done really well.
Well, he got the final. The thing is, a lot of people were like, fans are quick to like, get this guy out of here. He's a bum. Like,
he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. He's a bum. Right. Hall of Famer bum. Yes. Hall of Famer.
They don't take a lot. And I'm guilty sometimes of it too. But a lot of times we don't take a step back and look at the big picture and go, okay, why is this guy not working out right now? What is going on? Blah blah. And the thing with Spencer Brown was he was thrown into the mix right away his rookie year. He wasn't even supposed to start. He kind of got in there because of injury. So he was already like a project guy to come when he came out because he was a former tight end basketball guy. So he never was like the whole thing with him was he was more project player year one.
Yeah.
He got thrown in the mix right away. Then he had a major back injury. And then he had another back thing that happened the following year. So when we got Cromer, he didn't get to work with, and I would say the off season is so important for guys' development, like young guys. And like a lot of people don't get the off season. That's what really it's about. You get the one-on-ones because once training camp's over and once all this, the regular season hits, that shit's over with. Practices, you're getting ready for the team that you're facing. All those one-on-ones, they're done. So I felt like Spencer Brown never got that opportunity to work with Cromer. And when he finally did, which was last year, you saw the results. You saw a healthy Spencer Brown. You saw a way better Spencer Brown, and he's gotten paid because of that. That's it. So that's why I like Spencer Brown. That's why I always tell fans sometimes you got to chill out. You got to see the big picture. Sometimes and sometimes you're right. Sometimes guys just aren't that guy. But I always have faith in Spencer Brown, and he's showing that he's going to work out. So yeah, our offensive line I would say is going to be okay. It just depends what happens there at center. But Edwards isn't terrible, Curtis. Edwards played for the Rams on the Super Bowl team.
No, he actually played pretty well. He played pretty well.
Yeah, so I'm not.
He got injured though. He did really good like 1 year, and then next year he was injured and it wasn't so hot.
Yeah, so I'm not overly concerned. It could be a little bit coming back from the injury. It slowed him down a little bit. So offensive line, I think is fine. I think our offense, bro, as long as you got, a really good quarterback back there, you're gonna be okay, in my opinion. I mean, so I feel like as long as we got Josh back there, we can make it work, man. With whoever is out there and a good offensive line, you got to have a good offensive line. So, anybody else, or are we moving on? Y'all ready for that? Y'all ready? Here we go. Let's do it. Let's get to the games, man. All right, first game. Let's start with the Patriots and Bengals, and then we'll start with you, Zach, first, and we'll move around the room. So first, let's get to the question, and then you could talk. So your buddy had a question for you. Let me scroll up a lot, and I told him I promised I would if he's still in here. Hold on, let me find that.
I think I got it.
You got it? Okay, pull that up.
I can't. It's not letting me put it on the screen, but I'll just read
fine.
it out.
You can read it out. Yeah.
Heading into tomorrow's game, what is your opinion on the chances New England has with Higgins doubtful and Chase possibly not playing? Any thoughts? That greatly increases the Patriots' chances. T. Higgins is doubtful for the game, I believe, and Jamar Chase is questionable, partly due to his contract issues. He was holding out for a new deal. He returned to practice a couple days ago, but also today he was added to the injury report with an illness. So there is the chance that he isn't able to go because he doesn't want to, and there's the chance that he isn't able to go because of an illness. So I think that, the Bengals are obviously a good team. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not, but they always start off slow. They are pretty notorious for that, especially in recent years, that they start off 0-1, 0-2, and then they pick it up from there. I think that if Higgins and Chase don't play, I would actually be surprised if the Patriots do not win. And I am not high on the Patriots this season. I would like to think that I've been somewhat realistic with my expectations for them, but I would be surprised if they are unable to win, assuming Higgins doesn't go and assuming that Chase doesn't. Realistically, though, I think Chase will play. He might be limited a little bit, might not play every snap, but even just having him on the field is obviously huge for the Bengals. Even if he gets no targets, he's still going to take away a ton of attention from the defense. So I think Chase playing and Chase not playing is the difference between a loss and a win for the Patriots.
Okay, and your score prediction, and we're going to go around the room for each game, by the way.
So again, it's tough because we don't know who's playing and who's not.
Putting you on a spot, Zach.
I'm going. I put out a post. I'm going with 9-6 Patriots.
Wow, very low scoring. Okay. Hey, yeah, Anthony. So same game. What do you think? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
Sorry, just real quick. The Patriots offense isn't going to put up many points, and I think if the Bengals don't have their two best offensive weapons, it'll be tough for them to put up points as well. So that was simple as that. The rationale there.
All right, Anthony. So the Patriots and Bengals. What do you see? How do you see this game playing out?
So the first thing I get from Zach's prediction here is that we all got to change our survivor picks because I feel like the Patriots are the one everyone's going on against to lose this game for the survivor pools. So if he's right, a lot of people are going to get knocked out in week one. I got to disagree with Zach on this one. I know a loss of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is huge, but the Bengals are so far along in their, rebuild. Yeah. Not a rebuild. They're so further progressed. The Patriots are in year one of a rebuild. Brissett, that offensive line looks terrible. Bengals come in with a pretty strong defensive line. I think it's going to be a problem. I know you said low scoring, but I do believe Joe Burrow is going to find a way to put some points on the board, probably more than the Patriots are able to. So I do have the Bengals winning this game to start off the season by a score. I think like you said, Zach, it really depends on whether or not Higgins and Chase play. And if they are playing, obviously it increases the score a little bit. But let me say they aren't playing for sakes of this argument. I still think the Bengals end up winning this game by maybe 20-7. I'll give the Patriots a touchdown this game somehow.
Okay. Captain D, what you think, man? Patriots, Bengals.
Patriots, Bengals. Number one, I like what the Patriots are doing. I like the vision. Gerard Mayo, Christian Gonzalez, Drake May, Zach. You guys are going to be there. That's good. Starting young, I like that. But with that being said, I can't bet against Joe Breezy, and even without Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, I think the Bengals are going to overtake this, and it's going to be And by the way, Jacoby Brissett, I get it, not to start Drake May, ease him into it. But Jacoby Brissett, yikes! I'm gonna stay away from that. Been there, done that, and I'm gonna say Bengals 24, Patriots 6.
Whew. Curtis.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback what D said. Like, we as Dolphin fans got to see Brissett behind a bad offensive line, and that's kind of what you get in the Bengals. They've got a great D coordinator. They got the ability to get after guys. I think they're going to miss DJ Reader a ton in the bigger games. I think Jenkins is a nice guy to fill in there. I still think they're going to be able to get after Brissett, who can get rattled. He's a manager. You don't have a lot of weapons over there. I think Burrow's a guy who can get the ball out quick. He can navigate the pressure and find the receiver, go through his progressions quicker. I think 21-13. I think that the defense of the Patriots might cause some problems, get some good possession space to get like a field goal or two. I really like the direction. I think May's going to appears to have a good chance to be a good quarterback. Got a lot of good pieces, but that offensive line, it really, it goes back to the offensive line. Just it's either, average, all pro you got to play at, or Madden, depending on how good and bad it is. And with that offensive line, they're asking Brissett to play all Madden, and he's not that. So I'm going to say 21-13.
It's kind of close, Curtis. I mean, it's not that far off. They're playing in Cincinnati. I kind of am with Zach a little bit on Cincinnati. They start slow in general. Like, I don't know what it is about that team. But Burrow always has some bad starts, like 4 or 5. I remember one game he had like 5 interceptions or something, something crazy. But then he starts to heat up, and then they're a totally different team by like week 3, week 4. They start to get back to Bengals football. But with that being said, the Patriots are on a total rebuild. New head coach. I get you guys are excited about him, but listen, man. Your old head coach, who is a Hall of Famer, and Belichick, didn't matter who he had on the roster. They were always going to play better than their ability. Like, he always got the best out of his squad. Can Mayo do the same? That's to be said. We don't know. But that's what I think made Belichick so great. Like, he never had like unbelievable talent. He just made those guys look really good. He coached them up well. They played fantastic for him. And I don't know yet if that's going to be the same case with Mayo. That's 1. 2, Brissett is not very good. Okay. But I understand what you're doing. And I think that's smart by sitting the young guy, like having him sit, there's no reason to rush him out there, especially on that team, the offensive line. Just, you're going to get him crushed, right? So let him learn, let him sit, let him wait. More than likely, you will see him at some point in the season. They're going to throw him out there to get his feet wet before the following season. But I just opening week in Cincinnati, with all that being said, I don't think you guys have enough firepower, especially on offense, which has really been the case even with Belichick over the last 3 seasons, right? Offense has been stuck in the mud. It was the defense that kind of kept him always in the games. But I just feel like he's gone now. You lost, I forget the guy you lost, but he was a big time defensive player for you guys. Judon. Yeah. And it's just it's just not, you're on rebuild mode, man. So I'm going to say, now is Chase, is he totally listed as out yet? Because I know he was back at practice.
Questionable, but it is. So again, there's 2 situations there. There is the contract, and he was also like re-added to the injury report with an illness. So
okay. Sometimes those could be tricky, and they do that on purpose. That's the injury report. I think he plays. I do. I think he plays. He came back for a reason. You know what I mean? This isn't the situation over in Jets with Reddick. And I forgot to get about I wanted to talk to you about that. But anyways, I think Chase does play. And I think the Bengals wind up getting I think the score's, I'm going to say 27-9. I don't think it's close. I don't think the Patriots have enough firepower to make an interesting game on offense. I think the defense of the Bengals is pretty solid. They're going to get after Brissett. They're going to probably get some turnovers. which is going to lead to good field position, which means easy points for the Bengals. Yeah, and and also your defense is not the same. It's just not. And like I said, new head coach. It's going to be a rocky year for the New England Patriots, and it's not going to start great because you're going against a really good team and a good head coach, by the way, a team that got to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So, yeah, I don't think this one's close. By the way, too, we were talking about Anthony about Reddick. That's because I didn't get to that. I gotta say, man, with that situation, what you guys got going over there, that's weird, bro. Like, I honestly think this has nothing to do with the contract, bro. And I could be wrong, but it's weird that he came out, got traded, did an interview, a presser, said, "Hey, y'all know who I am. I'm going to bring it. I'm not going to talk about contract because I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I'm here for a year. I can't. Yeah, like everybody knows that I'm going to, blah blah blah. Like he gave the media everything. Like, hey, positive, right? I'll be there no matter blah blah blah. And for him just to not show up at anything after that day tells me something happened with management or coach, something, because he's losing a shit ton of money. And I just don't get it, because if it was about a contract, trust me, he would have showed something would have, and he would have said right off the riff. And by the way, if that was a deal too, the Jets should have had that in motion before they even traded for him. Hey, we're going to trade, but we want, because usually that's how it works. Okay, we'll extend you, or you're here for a year. You good with that? Like, they usually work with the agent before they even make the deal. So I don't think it's about money, because for me, I think it's this: he doesn't want to play for you one way or the other. Something bad happened after that conference, and somebody rubbed them the wrong way, and he's willing to take a massive hit. And I think honestly, it's bad for both parties, because I think it's bad for him because, one, he's aging, and he should have showed up, in my opinion, because he would have got a contract somewhere else, even if he didn't want to play for the Jets, if he had a decent year. But on the other side, the Jets should have worked that out before they made the trade. Right? Yeah. I think they dropped the ball there. So something happened, like I said, behind closed doors, something that led him to go, you know what? I'm going to take this massive pay hit. And by the way, even if he shows back up, I think it's way too late. Way too late. You don't know the playbook. You haven't worked with, you don't know your teammates. You don't know nothing. And I'm sure you already have a bad taste in your mouth. Like, with the coaching staff, I'm sure they're thinking the same. Like, it's not going to be good. Locker room vibes probably aren't going to be great. He doesn't know the guy he's playing next to. I think he sits the whole season. I think he comes back somewhere because he has to. But
they own his contract. If he sits the whole season, though, they own his contract.
He can come back. But he can come back week. What is it? 9. Yeah. Like, there's a certain week he has to. But I still don't think he plays. I think he's like he'll wind up being like a healthy scratch, or, in my opinion. I just don't see how it works. What do you think on that, Anthony? Because I know you talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm kind of with you on a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, 100%. When you make a trade like this, usually the contract is agreed to beforehand. And, you get the trade announcement and then the contract announcement kind of hand in hand. That didn't happen. My understanding, based on what I've kind of read and reviewed on this whole situation, is the Jets did do that. They reached out to him. They reached out to his agent, offered a contract, and they were close enough where the Jets said, okay, let's go ahead and get this trade locked in and then come in and we'll finalize the details. The problem is he never came in. As you mentioned, after that interview, never showed up after that. Didn't show up to the mandatory portion of minicamp. Didn't show up to the voluntary portion of minicamp. Obviously, we know he hasn't shown up to training camp. His fines to date have already kind of reached the $5 million, and that's not even counting the game checks per date. Starting this week, he's only $750,000 per game that he misses. As you mentioned, he shows up by week 10, then his contract won't toll. He'll be able to be a free agent at the end of the year. So that's probably the situation that's going to happen, like you had mentioned. But I think what you're saying is right. Something happened between the date of the trade and the date of the I'll be there for everything. And the only thing I could think of is he felt, and his agency felt, they gained leverage when the Jets trade away John Franklin Myers, because now they're a little thin at defensive end than they were before the trade. So that's the only leverage he and his agency really have, because He already requested a trade. The Jets came out with a statement that day, posted it on social media and everything, saying, we made this trade, and although he's requested a trade, we don't have any interest in obligating.
Do you think that's a mistake? Like, I'm just throwing this out there. The only reason I'm throwing it out there is because, listen, if I'm a GM, it's kind of like the Diggs thing, right? Like, you don't want to be here, get the hell out of here, kind of mentality. For me, I get it. You're finding him. But for me, it's like, I know why. Like, why are the Jets so like, hey, we're just not gonna, like? It's almost like they're playing like hard to get to. Like, it's just like, for me, it's like, okay, you don't want to be here. Let's get something now, because even if he comes back week 10, what use is he now? Right now, he's just a guy throwing out there, and he's not used to he's not unfamiliar with the playbook. Like I said, everything about earlier. So for me, I'd move on. I'd go, you know what? Let's get what we can now. Let's make him somebody else's problem. But here's the deal. Now it may be too late. Teams may be looking at it and going, exactly. That's my point. But maybe
and then giving him a $25 million contract. Like
I don't know. That is a great.
That's a problem.
Somebody, but you know what? Some teams do.
Well, you don't know.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But this trade was definitely out there. The Eagles definitely had it out there for other teams to.
Yeah, that's true. And you guys were the only ones who jumped it. Yeah, Curtis, what were you going to say?
No, but you don't know. Jets own his rights, so there's a long trading deadline. So maybe a contender loses a top edge guy.
Exactly.
And you're like, all right, you know what? I can even recoup a third or a possible second.
That's
or
what
whatever.
I'm thinking. Right, by the deadline.
So,
it's
play hardball and. What happened?
Is that same team going to give him the contract he wants?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but
maybe they're desperate, though. Maybe they're desperate. Like Joey Bosa goes down or something, and they're desperate to win. You never know.
Yeah, but he may not want. He may go, you know what? It's only 4 games or whatever. 5 games remaining in the season. I don't need a contract. I'll just take it, play, show some flashes of what I can do, and I'll get paid in the offseason. There has been players that have done that. Like, they don't necessarily. Not every in-season trade there's a contract worked out. Guys can't move on. You know what I mean? Odell got traded. Von Miller got traded to the Rams and went to the Buffalo Bills. There's plenty of players that had that happen. So if I'm the Jets, like I said, though, I'm not playing that game where I'm like, we're going to do this cat and mouse thing. I'm just going to go, you know what? We'll wait. A team's probably going to call, and we'll move on from you, bro. You don't want to be here? Okay, we're going to get what we can, and you work. You take that negative energy somewhere else. That's how I would do. So, anyways, I wanted to get to that. So, let's get to the next game. So, next game up, we will get to. Why not? We'll get to the Cardinals-Bills game. We'll start with Curtis first on this one.
Oh yeah, I was going to start my Bills coverage up again, and I'm like, Bills got this. This is home game. Cardinals are the Cardinals. Murray scrambles a lot. He throws late. So this all fits right into the wheelhouse of the Bills. They're going to win. I think it's going to be pretty easy. Mm-hmm. And, so a lot of people are not, I want to knock the Bills, but I can't do it unless it's intellectually driven. And for me, the biggest thing with the Bills is that they struggle with consistency. But you lost some big play talent with Davis and Diggs. But you got Kincaid, who's going to allow you to be consistent. You got an offensive line. You're going to run more 2 tight end sets. You're going to run the football more. And you can always dial up the big plays with, say, Kincaid, or you could dial up with a Curtis Samuel, or just Josh Allen doing it himself. So I think the Bills are going to be fine. My only thing that I keep going back to is that safety department. That's the only real red flag that I say. Yeah. I don't see a red flag from the receiver group because, and Tommy, you got to tell me, I dialed up this offense 3 years ago for you. I mean, I game planned and I put it on the table. I said, this is the perfect framework for Allen and the Dolphins 3 years ago, right? So I think they're in a perfect situation because you could do so much of play action. To the play action alone, like I was trying to show my Dolphin fans, Lamar had a crammed box. He did a play action off to Likely, and Likely was one-on-one with the safety. And so the same kind of stuff is going to happen with the Bills. So I'm totally fine with them. I think they can destroy the Cardinals. I think it's going to be like 31-17, 31-13. And I think it's going to be an easy game for them. I think it's a good tune-up game for them. I think it's not going to be really even much of a challenge. I mean, they can run the football. The Cardinals can get somewhat of a decent line. And Murray can maybe scramble or whatever, but they're just so inconsistent, and that's my take.
All right, Captain D.
I'm thinking the complete opposite. I think this is going to be a weird type of game, close game. Kyler Murray might pull out something out of his bag, but the Bills, I'm definitely concerned about. I think on both sides of the field, the playmaking ability is just not there anymore. Matt Milano's out. We have to see what Keon Coleman can do. Shakir, who knows? And this is a big question mark that I'm going to go around about the whole panel is what these teams are going to offer this year. I'm seeing this game is going to be a lot closer. I got the Cardinals sneaking out one here.
What's the score?
I'm going to say 24-16.
Ooh, yikes. Okay, Zach.
I think this game's going to be a little bit closer than it should be, but I still have the Bills taking home the win 25-16. I just really like Kyler Murray, to be honest, more than most people do. And I think with a receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr., he's going to show flashes and be able to just have at least a couple of drives where we see what that offense will be capable of in possibly in a couple of years, especially against this, I guess, new Bills defense, where who knows what's going to happen there. But week one against a team that is, I guess, as bad as it is with the Cardinals, where they are not that deep of a team, they don't have a ton of talent. I'm going to give the Bills the edge in a 9-point win.
Nice. All right, Anthony.
So, obviously the Bills, had some key losses, as you mentioned earlier. But I do think this is a situation. Bills are at home. Cardinals, they are a team in transition. We don't know what Kyler Murray we're going to get. It's usually the case here. I do think that it's closer than, maybe many believe it's going to be. I think the Bills come out with this one 24-17. First game with this offense operating the way it is. We've seen what Kyler Murray can do. We've seen what Kyler Murray can do with a good offensive, skill player when he had DeAndre Hopkins over there. Can Marvin Harrison be that player? We'll see what he can do. Can he, be the player that we all expected him to be? It's going to be tough to see it against this Bills strong secondary. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where the Cardinals can really travel and get that upset. They do come with a pretty solid defensive coordinator as their head coach. So we'll see how it all turns out. But I just don't think it's enough for the Cardinals at this stage in their development to go into Buffalo and get a win on opening week.
So I'm with you, man. Wait, what's the score? What score did you give?
24-17.
24-17. Okay. So there's a couple things new with the Bills too that I forgot to mention. So Bobby Babich is now taking over defensive coordinator. Thank God. Though I love Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott is a defensive-minded head coach. He's a really good coordinator. However, juggling both head coach and defensive coordinator last season did not work out for him. Like I just feel like he's not at that stage of his career where he can do both because he's still finding his way as a head coach, in my opinion, especially in the playoffs. Regular season, I think Sean McDermott, like if you're building a team, Sean McDermott is the perfect guy, I think. Like he's a perfect guy to build a team, get your team right into the playoffs. But the playoffs is where he tends to struggle. So, but anyways, I am happy that he gave the keys to Bobby Babich, and hopefully he lets him keep the keys because that's another thing that Sean McDermott has been known to do. He did it to Leslie Frazier, where he takes the keys away in crucial moments, and you can't do that. Like, you got to let your defensive coordinator do his job. So I'm hoping he trusts Bobby Babich enough to let him do defensive play calling. That's one. But this game here, man, look, the Cardinals are the Cardinals, right? I think I believe it's a second-year coach. It's been there now 2 years now. They weren't that great last year. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., which I think is going to be the best receiver in the draft. I admit that dude is a beast. But it's week one. We don't know yet on these receivers. He's going against Rasul Douglas, who's one of the better corners in the league. He's up there. And we do have good corners. Christian Benford, even if and I think they're going to wind up going back and forth on him. Benford's a solid corner as well. So I'm not too concerned about the receivers. I would say more so about the running backs. They averaged almost 5 yards a carry last year. We've been known to give up chunk yards on the ground, right? Like that's Buffalo's thing. I don't know why. And if we could slow down the run attack, that would totally take away, I feel, any passing game that they're going to have, because it's going to take away the play action, and it's going to shut that shit down mighty quick. And I just don't, I don't trust Kyle Murray enough to win them a game if the run game can't get going. I think on offense we'll be fine. I do. I think under Joe Brady's new system, spreading the ball around, running the ball more, we got a lot more physical. We got 6'5" guys all over the field, dude. So we are going to be a different look. This is not what you're going to see from last year. Even when Brady took over, it was still Ken Dorsey's system. And Brady was just kind of like winging off it. Like it wasn't his system. This is a totally new system. I think you're going to see everybody kind of get to eat, and it's going to be fun. But with that being said, the Bills have not came out week one, have played particularly well in seasons past. We lost to Pittsburgh on a hope opener in 2021, which is a big disappointment. We lost to the Jets last year when we shouldn't have. Let's be real. Aaron Rodgers got hurt. The air got sucked out of that building. You would think, and everybody thought, and fans of the Jets knew, that game was done when that happened. And I'm sorry, it was. But we just did not play well. Allen did not play well. Allen played terrible. And sometimes we come out the gate slow. But with that being said, I just don't trust the Cardinals. We are at home. But I do think this is kind of close up until the fourth quarter. I think late in the third is where we kind of start to pull away. So I'm going to say 27-17. But I think it's close until midway third quarter. And we start to slowly pull away. And then we wind up winning 27-17. I will say if we lose this game, it's going to be tough because the next 5 games, we're 4 or 5 on the road. And they're not easy. They're the Dolphins at the Miami. We're home against Jacksonville. They're no pushover. Then we're back on the road. Who do we got after that? We got another tough team on the road. By the way, we play the Dolphins right away, too. So let me tell you the schedule real quick, too. So we got at Miami, home against Jacksonville, at the Ravens, at the Texans, at the Jets. I mean, it's brutal 4 or 5 on the road. So if you lose here to Cardinals, that is not a good start for the Buffalo Bills, considering what they got to go through over the next 5 games, 4 or 5 being on the road. The NFL did us no justice there, but that's what happens when you're a good team. They set you up for a very difficult schedule. So I think this is very important for the Buffalo Bills to win this game, because there's going to be some tough. It could be some losses during that patch. You don't want to lose the teams you should have won against. That was the Bills' issue last year, losing the teams you shouldn't have lost against. And then it got us in a really bad predicament. And luckily, the Dolphins didn't finish the season out the way they wanted to, and Buffalo got lucky and wound up winning the East. So, but yeah, I think we wind up winning 27-17, something like that. All right, let's move on to I think we're on the last game here, right? So, or did we talk? The
most important game of all.
No,
the Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins 2024 on the way to the perfect season, baby.
We still got 2 more, the Jets and 49ers too. So let's start with we'll start with the Jags Dolphins. So Curtis was already getting into his feelings. So let's start with Curtis on his Super Bowl Dolphin team. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go a little hopium this time. Because I'm coming off the hopium off season. I don't know if Jalen Ramsey's playing or not. It's a huge swing for me. This Jags team can play really, really well. They can play the nickel, play off high leverage in the box, and that's the anathema basically to the Dolphins offense. You play off on them, you play jam on them, you get pressure with 4, 2 is throwing into 7-man defensive coverage. Slowly they got to reel in the receivers and routes to fix that blocking. That's not happening. And then it comes down to the offensive line. OBJ is not there to accentuate the leverage. But It's the Jags. They're inconsistent. They have a level of inconsistency that kind of matches the Dolphins. I've seen some good things from them this offseason as far as the ability to run inside. They tried to do it last year. They couldn't do it this year. In preseason, they looked a lot better at it. They picked up some good players. That the rookie kid that I liked a lot, I always forget his name. So they got a good complement of 3 receivers with Ingram at tight end. I love Eric. What is it?
Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, that's it. And so you got Davis and him, which are big guys, and then that's the problem. If Ramsey's not in there, that does concern me a little bit. Kadeko, who will have to play, he gets struggles in mid to late clock. They got Eric Armstead, but Jonnu Smith's a big piece for me, and I don't think that people are realizing with what Tua likes to do, that the leverage he sets, his ability to carry the football, his ability to block better than what we saw last year and be a two-way go tight end. It really, they call it the security blanket for a reason. And so now you got Hill and Waddle and the Chosen just got elevated, and he'll be able to play on the edge. And that's going to bring Hill be able to play the slot. When he was with KC, played slot 70% of the time and boundary 30. When he came to the Dolphins, it was flipped, and he's much better in the slot position. So the Chosen at the boundary, Waddle and Jonnu and Achane, and then Hill doing that motion slot thing. A couple of big plays with that frying heat. My man Tommy knows about the frying heat. They're going to be frying. And if we could just kind of get it where we're ahead and they're chasing, the frying part could actually finish them off. I'm thinking like 27-21, 27-24, one of these two teams. And I think it's going to come down to, can the Jags run inside? If they get a legitimate inside run, Warren Sharp did a great article last year on the Dolphins, Ravens defense, which is not a Dolphins defense. And it showed if a team can run on first down and get a good running game, the Ravens defense, the McDonald defense, goes to bottom 3 in the league. But if they can't and they play those light boxes, they're top 3. And then Lawrence has problems not choking. So it's going to be about the Jags running inside and the Dolphins being able to get those chunk plays and creating space. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins, either 27-24, 27-21. But if Ramsey doesn't play and they run inside, I think it could be flipped.
All right, Captain D, man. What you got, man?
You got to stop backing me up from Curtis because it's literally going to be the same reciprocal.
I'm sorry. I stole your notes. I stole his notes. He doesn't know I stole his notes.
There's so much reciprocating information here, but with the Dolphins, there's obviously some question marks. The health of Jalen Ramsey. If Jalen Ramsey does not start, we are looking at a very, very young Ethan Bonner that could possibly play towards the boundary, or we can mismatch that with Kohu and maybe upgrade Nick Needham to the nickel position. That is definitely an issue. Offensively, lights out. I mean, Tyreek Hill, Waddle. I'm going to sprinkle this in there right now. And like I always say, Captain D always says, Jalen Wright, remember that name. He's going to be special. He's going to be very, very special. He's going to be a superstar. Remember that name. But ultimately, our offensive line right now, the starters are set to play. Aaron is what I'll call him, is going to play. Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg at guard. So
Liam the Stud Eichenberg.
Liam the Stud. Offensively, we are locked and ready to go. Defensively is going to be an option. Jacksonville does possess some issues on the defensive line versus our offensive line, so that's going to be an issue. But I do see that the Dolphins are going to edge this one out. I'm going to say 31-17 Dolphins. There's just too much firepower.
And heat.
And heat. And we're going to sprinkle in some packages with Jonnu Smith in there that we have set that's going to make a difference. And 31-17 Dolphins.
Okay.
I like that.
Zach, what you got for this game?
I mean, it's kind of hard to follow those two up, but yeah, I guess the Dolphins, that firepower on offense is too much. And I think especially for a team like the Jaguars, I don't see how they can keep up. I have the Dolphins as I wrote it down and I forget it 27-13. I don't see.
That's the first score of our Super Bowl run. D.
I wouldn't go that far, but I just don't see any way for the Dolphins to lose this one. I've never.
Where'd you find this kid? This is a good kid. Good kid.
Wait until it gets later in the season. I might have these scores flipped.
Well, don't worry about that. We're Dolphins fans. We go week to week.
All right.
Anyways, I've just never really been high on the Jaguars, to be honest. I think that Trevor Lawrence, well, he's good, isn't great. I don't love that they lost Calvin Ridley, of course, and that defense is fine, but I wouldn't say that it's in that like upper echelon. So the Dolphins just the speed they have on offense, and it might sound pretty surface level because that's what they are. They are a fast team. They're an explosive team, but I just think that they are going to be able to torch the Jaguars, and their drives might be very hit or miss. It might be a 70-yard touchdown on one drive and then cold for 5 drives, but I just don't see a way that the Dolphins lose this one.
I like this kid. He's a genius. Genius.
What do you got, Anthony?
I think we're all kind of in lockstep on this one a little bit here. I think Dolphins run away with this one. Let's be real. Dolphins, this is their time, beginning of the season. They've come out the last few years on fire, scoring a lot of points, and this is what they do. The biggest question I have for the Jaguars is which Trevor Lawrence are we going to see? Are we going to see the one that played the back half of a couple of years ago that looked like he was on the way to being an elite quarterback? Or are we going to see the one from last year that just wasn't the same player that we saw in that period of time? I think, the Jaguars are a team that maybe later on the stretch could surprise a couple people. But going against the Dolphins, week 1, Mike McDaniel's going to come out with some exotic looks nobody's ever seen before. We're all going to be like, holy crap, how do you figure out a way to get this guy the ball in this type of situation and that spot of the field? It's just going to be, it's going to be a track meet for the Dolphins. I have them win this game pretty easily, 31-17.
Okay.
Wait,
yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
Real quick, I'll say Dolphins fans, don't be confused because it's now Josh Hines Allen. Josh Hines Allen might be an issue, and Armstead might be an issue. So keep aware of that.
I think it's Joshua too. Is it?
Yep.
Or is it just did he keep it as
Hines
Josh?
Allen.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't want to be compared to the Buffalo Bills quarterback anymore.
Yep.
Come on, Tommy. Prove yourself to be smart. Get on the bandwagon, baby. Don't look like the oddball. You don't want to look dumb on week 1, dude. You don't want to look dumb week 1.
I know. Listen. Here's the deal. The Jaguars, I think they're a weird team, bro. They have our number. I don't know why. They always play us extremely well. But I think Trevor Lawrence is good, but I don't think he's great. I think he definitely got overpaid for at least for what he's done so far in the league. I think he's definitely gotten overpaid. But I think also go back to it's tough to find a good quarterback. So I kind of understand them paying him as well. Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, is really good, and I think he's getting better. But they lost some pieces on offense. They got Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas. I just don't think they have enough weapons to match Miami's weapons. I don't, and it's really honestly, it goes to Miami's speed. I just think Miami's offense is just too fast right now for that Jacksonville defense. I don't think they have enough. I think they'll get after Tua a little bit, but I ultimately I think Miami just has way too many weapons for Jacksonville to match. But I will say this though, if you're going to beat Miami, the way to play Miami, at least from what I've seen and from what the Buffalo Bills have done well, is you got to be physical with the receivers. You have to throw them off their timing because Miami's offense is a timing offense. You throw them off, you have a chance. And that's how I see it. If you play them cushiony, you give them some space, they are going to wreck you. They're going to speed by you. There will be no chance in hell. Look at Denver last year. They learned their lesson the hard way. You cannot play them that way. You got to play them physical, and you got to that's how you at least stay in the game versus Miami, in my opinion. But if they don't, they're going to get toasted. But I don't think this one's close. I think it's close slightly in the beginning, and I think Miami steadily but surely pulls away, and I think it's something like 30-17. I don't think it's close. And I think even they score a bullshit touchdown at the end. That I really think this is a blowout. I just don't see the Jags having a chance in Miami, by the way, too. So it's like they're working against the crowd. They're working against the heat. They're working against guys that are burners. It's just a lot stacked up against Jacksonville. All right, let's get to the last game.
You did good, Tommy. You did
Thank
good,
you. I know.
Tommy.
Thank you. Jets and 49ers. Let's get to it. Curtis? Actually, we'll start with the below. Anthony, start with you. We'll start with
All righty. Here we go. All right. So this game's going to be a banger. I honestly, you look at this game, and you look at all the matchups in this game. 49ers obviously come in. They're one of the most talented teams overall in the entire league. The Jets are right up there with some of the best teams in the league from a talent perspective. You want to say Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Well, we got Sauce Gardner. We got DJ Reed. We got Michael Carter in the slot. We have plenty of skill players on offense as well. Garrett Wilson, I believe, is up for a huge year this year. Having a quarterback that can actually operate with a football in his hands is a huge upgrade over what he's had at the quarterback position his first 2 years in the league. And he still put up 1,000-yard seasons in each of those years. The offensive lines for both these teams are excellent. Defensive lines for both these teams are excellent. You can literally go down the map of every single position group and even to the coaching staff. Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich operate a strong defense. They're going to have their hands full with what Kyle Shanahan can operate from an offensive perspective. With all those matchups being considered, the biggest matchup of all, I think, is going to come down to Aaron Rodgers at quarterback versus the San Francisco 49ers defense coordinator playing in his first game as defense coordinator, got elevated up from, got promoted. Obviously, we know San Francisco defense coordinator got let go last season. So this is a tough ask for a first game defense coordinator, go up against a quarterback that's seen every single look in the NFL and has operated that way. I know it's going to be a shock to many, but I have the Jets winning this game and coming up with an upset in San Fran to open up the season and start the friggin' bandwagon. It's going to get loaded. It's going to get loaded up very quickly. I know Miami fans, you guys are talking about the Super Bowl parade starting up already, getting the train rolling. But the Jets are all in this year. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with. This defense is too strong. This offense got 1,000 times better from what it was the year before. Give me the Jets in this game, 24-20. Let's get this train rolling.
All right, Zach, your thoughts?
I think Anthony might like me a little bit less than Curtis. I have the 49ers 36-24. I mean, the 49ers are just such a good team. And until we really see it with the Jets, I'm going to keep that same sort of middle of the pack to above average team. And I know they will probably be better than that. But until I see it, I'm going to keep them in that range. The 49ers, obviously, pretty much everyone who had to get paid did get paid. They're coming in motivated, coming off of another Super Bowl loss. I just don't see a way for them to fumble this game away. So again, 36-24. And again, with the Jets kind of how I have them, I'm sure that later in the season I'll be switching that up a little bit, and I'll be predicting them for some more wins. But just for now, until we see a healthy Aaron Rodgers and until we see what this team can do, I'm going to have them as probably losing a couple of games.
All right. Captain D, man, your thoughts?
My thoughts on this game is that, number one, I want to say, Anthony, the Jets have a ton of talent on there. And I have preached for the past 2 years that Robert Saleh is a very good coach. I do believe in him. But that being said, with Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old coming off an Achilles injury, a lot of front office issues, whether that play out in the media and whether it transitions onto the field, we'll see. We only got to see Aaron Rodgers one play, so we have to see how this is going to play out. Alan Lazard, great talent. Garrett Wilson, on the defensive end, a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent on this team, but meeting up a 49ers team, game one, it's going to be a big, big mountain to overcome. I'm going to say 49ers 27, Jets 14.
All right. Curtis, what you got?
Well, I thought the Jets were going to do well last year, and they kind of let me down. But I focus on the offensive line, and I think a big piece right now that is not being talked is John. Was it Buford? What's his name? The guard. What's his name? John Feliciano. He's going to be out for the 49ers. And if you look at their offensive line, it's trashed. Last year, they had two guys they built on. It was Feliciano, I think it was, and it was Trent Williams. Trent Williams, a Hall of Famer. But the Jets, the key for them, man, they got Smith, who's a top 5 tackle. They got Morgan Moses, who I'm very high on. Veritaka, who's good. Simpson is solid. Tippmann, he's growing. But that's an offense. That offensive line is way better right now than the 49ers. Can they stay healthy? That's the long-term concern for me. But then you go look at their San Fran's defensive line. They lost Eric Armstead. They lost Young. Floyd's really good at pass rushing, but he can't run stop. Collins is unknown. They got Bosa Hargrave. Great defense. But I still think the defense of the Jets matches up better because the Jets' offensive line is better. And so the level of needing to get the job done is going to be lower for Aaron Rodgers than it is going to be for Purdy. And you saw when Purdy gets pressured and he can't run the football, then it starts becoming a problem. So I like the Jets this game. I think it's 28-20. And I think that because they're going into what the Dolphins are doing. They have unbelievable talent. They signed back Ayuk. It's Ayuk, Jennings, Kittle, Samuel, and the other tight end they have is really good. And they got McCaffrey. These skills are really, really high. But the offensive line is a little shaky. And, you saw last year in the Super Bowl, they were running inside, running outside, balancing, passing, and they were destroying their opponent. And then all of a sudden, second half, they stopped running inside. I think it was the right guard got injured. And then they started running outside, and everything started slowing down because the menu got limited, and defenses were able to take away what they had. And the last play where Purdy was going to throw the touchdown, they had the backup guard in there, and Long, or with the DT from Kansas City, got in there and disturbed that play. So I don't think Purdy can offset the offensive line like Tua can. Tua's release is quicker. I like Purdy better in some areas, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to outplay because Purdy's a darn good quarterback, but that offensive line is subpar right now. So he's going to have the difficulty notch too high. So like I said, 28-20 is for me.
This one's tough, man. I think I think the Jets defense is the key in this game. It's the key, right? I think the offense is, like Captain D said, we don't know yet what you're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He is Aaron Rodgers. Like, dude is Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner. I get that. But he's coming off a major injury, and he's 40 years old, right? So, we're not talking Tom Brady. He could be, but I don't think so. Even Tom Brady didn't suffer a major injury at 40, right? He suffered one early in his career, in his early 30s, but not that late in his career. That and he didn't have a lot of playing time with these guys last year. He only had one play. So that's the only thing I would say is I would say we don't know yet what we're going to get out of the Jets offensive side of things because we don't know yet how Aaron Rodgers will be coming off that injury. Now the defense, I think we know what the defense is. Like, there's no surprise when it comes to the Jets defense. I thought last year, towards the end of the season, they kind of gave up. I kind of feel like they were just like, hey, we're done. we're getting no support from the offense. I kind of felt like, that's why you kind of saw the Jets defense not at their best last year. Towards the end, it's kind of more like, hey, it's pretty much over. Let's restart this thing next year. So I still think it's a great defense, good corners, physical, get after you, turnovers. And that's why I think this game, and by the way, 49ers, their defense is good too.
Oh, very good. Yes.
Let's not forget about their defense, right? Bosa gets after it, right? He is the man there, right? Yep. And Warner, they are a good defense. And I will say this from Curtis's point on Purdy, when he gets pressured and things aren't going well, boy, he looks like a 7th rounder. He really does. But if he gets time with those weapons, he looks like fucking amazing, right? He looks like a first round,
he's clutch
top
too.
10, top 10 talent. But I think it boils down to McCaffrey's health, because I know he was a little banged up or something with his calf or something. So let's see how that works out going into game night. But man, they have a lot of weapons as well in their arsenal to kind of counter the Jets defense. So I think it's going to be a back and forth battle. I don't think this is going to be high scoring either. If you look at the Chiefs 49ers game, Super Bowl, wasn't like electric high scoring. It was okay. It was in the 20s for a while. Like, it was kind of a low scoring game. I could kind of see it like that because the Kansas City Chiefs last year had a good defense. I thought their defense is what really carried the Chiefs last year. So I kind of feel like the same with this game. I see this as a defensive battle. Which defense is going to crack? I'm going to give it to the 49ers because they're at home. I feel that does play a factor. I do think they have more offensive weapons in their arsenal than the Jets do to kind of counter that Jets defense. But I will say this, if they get after Purdy and Purdy throws some interception, makes some mistakes early on, like he did against the Ravens, they could get their asses whooped at home. Absolutely. Because you saw what the Ravens did to the 49ers last year, and they got after Purdy. That shit was not pretty. It got really out of control real fast. And you can't give Aaron Rodgers good field position. He will tear you up. Like, they're going to score touchdowns. So, anyways, I'm going to go 24-21 49ers. I think it's really, really close. I think it's a close game because of their defense. I just think it's a very low-scoring game. I think it could come down to whoever has the last possession. I really believe that. So it could go the opposite way, 24-21 Jets, but I'm going to go with the hometown team and go 24-21. All right, I think it's fair, Anthony. I think
I hear you.
Super Bowl team, a well-coached team as well, with a ton of playmakers. Like, you both, I feel like I said, you both have that. I just feel like offensively they got a little bit more to counter your defense. And that's the only reason I give them the edge, and they're at home.
41-2.
Oh, man, Scott. Woo. See, I was being nice. I told you.
Oh, my God.
So we're going to get out of here soon, but I do got one more thing.
Play before. Come on, 41 points. Jeez.
One more thing before we leave. And by the way, these shows, they're normally not 2 hours. We normally run an hour and a half, but this is the first one. We got to do the off-season talk and all that. But I want to know expectations for this season and your record, your predictions for your overall record. So, Curtis, let's start with the Dolphins. What's your overall, like, what do you think your record's going to be? I
don't know what my record's going to be, but I know what it has to be.
Throw something out there.
They've got to win 11 games.
So you're 11.
No, not even. No, they got to. I don't care what they win. Yeah, 17-0 Super Bowl. Now, they've got to win at least one playoff game and show well in the second playoff game. They've got to win at least one playoff game. They don't.
So you have yourself going to the playoffs. Is that
they have? If they don't, it's totally like,
But I mean, I want to know not what they have to do. I want to know what you feel that your Dolphins team is going to do. This is tough question. I know.
All right, I'll say 10. My thing is 90. I'll say
okay.
10 wins and one playoff round victory.
All right, 10. Wow, 10 wins. Oh, wow. I'm surprised you went so low. Okay, Captain D.
I think it's going to be tough. I think the AFC is going to be tough.
Expectations for the Dolphins this year.
I keep telling you to follow me after Curtis is not a good idea because it's going to be reciprocating
I stole your notes.
The same information. I'll go. Well, number one, I want to say the way how you communicate and treat people in your organization, in your business, whatever the way how you do. I am a business owner, by the way. The way how you communicate and treat your people is going to be a difference maker in your business, in your team, the way however you treat people. So that is important, Brian Flores, by the way. And I'm going to say I'll go 11 wins. I was going to go 10. Curtis went 10, but I'll go 11 wins. But it does make a difference. Mike McDaniel is making a difference. That's the way I re-sign them. Let's go Dolphins. I'm going to be positive. We're a couple injuries away of being decimated and probably having some young kids touch the hot stove to see how they do. But I'm going to be positive. We're thinking out the box. We're trying different stuff. Let's stay healthy. Let's have a good season. Come on, Dolphins fans. Come on. We got this.
All right. Zach. I know this is tough for you. Come on now.
So look, my whole thing is be somewhat competitive. I guess I'll throw this out here first. My win prediction is 5-12, right? Are not better than last year slightly, but nothing crazy. But as long as they come out and they keep a few games close, maybe they split the series with a team or two in the AFC East, or they come close in a couple of those games. That is all I want to see from the Patriots. Just show early on in this rebuild that, hey, even though we have a pretty tough schedule, we can be competitive. And really, I guess it's also building a culture, as I had emphasized before. So although I have 5-12, I think that they're going to be a significantly better team than last year, even if that difference is just one win. And I like 6-11 too. I like that more, I guess. But yeah, I don't think it'll be a great season in terms of wins and losses, but I think if you match up this Patriots team with the one they had last year, they win by 20, right? I don't think it's even close. So I like this team a lot more than the team last year. I think everything that did go wrong, or that could go wrong last year, did go wrong. And now they're coming in, new regime, a whole new 3-14, whole new roster. And I think that they will be a better team.
All right. So we got some optimistic fans in here, I like it. Anthony, go ahead with your team's prediction.
Hear me out. All right. The Jets won 7 games last year with guys like Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle throwing the football. They lost 3 games last year where the defense allowed 16 points or less. Just in the NFL, that's just unacceptable. That's just not the way it should be. They lost to the Chiefs with Zach Wilson by 3 points. All these things to say, the Jets are going to have a drastic improvement on offense overall. It just cannot get any worse, obviously. There's going to be a drastic improvement, and this defense is going to be consistent to what it was the year prior. Obviously, I'm a Jet fan. I'm very optimistic on what the Jets can do this year. They've upgraded this roster from top to bottom on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be light years ahead of what it was last year, and the defense is going to stay relatively consistent because nothing has changed on the defense side of the ball. I expect it to all remain pretty consistent to what we've seen in the past. I am overly optimistic with this team. I have us winning 12 games this season. It is an all-in season. Aaron Rodgers understands what's in front of him. He has a couple years left, and he's going to put it all on the line in these next couple of years. Breece Hall is an outstanding running back. He's an animal with the ball in his hands. He's electric. Aaron Rodgers has not had a running back at this magnitude in a very, very, very long time. A skill player that can catch the ball 70 times a year, 1,500 yards all-purpose last year with awful offensive line play. Garrett Wilson, I mentioned earlier, 1,000-yard receiver with I don't know, like a traffic cone, throwing the football to him. This is going to be a season that the Jets fans have been waiting for a very, very long time. 12 wins and a shot at the title, going for the division champs here. I got it.
All right.
All right. Well, Scott says you will improve by 1 game. So.
He's positive.
He's positive about the 8 win. Listen, so here's the deal, man. I feel like I'll start with the record. I think we win 13 games this year. I think we win the East again. And here's why. And it's reality. And I think Zach can contest this. When you're on top for so long, and we have been, you can't deny that, just like the Patriots on top, every year teams are saying what they're going to want to do, right? That they're going to win the East, and all the national media is picking a new, and Tom Brady's getting old, and this and that and this. You lost this, you lost that. But until these teams like the Jets and the Dolphins can prove that they can win the East, and they could prove that they can finish the season strong, they ain't winning the East. I'm sorry. Look, I get we lost players. I understand that. We've had injury problems over the last 3 years. I get that too. But every year since we've been winning the division 4 straight seasons, this has been the talk, right? It's been the Jets are going to have it last year. It's good. The Dolphins are they're going to run away with
this year. We know though.
Captain D said it best a year ago, I think, or a year ago. It's a marathon. It is. It's a long ass season. Things happen. Injuries happen. Suspensions, all field shit. Like, there's so much in the NFL that happens throughout the course of a season that it's unpredictable. Yep. And the one thing I will give the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott is that he knows how to get through all that crap and finish a season strong. And that's one thing, at least a knock, that the Dolphins and the Jets have not found a way to finish a season strong when games are supposed to win. And the Bills have always found that way over the last 5 seasons, really. And until I see otherwise, I have to still say we are going to win the division again. I feel like the Dolphins and the Jets have the Bills on their mind. I feel the Bills have the Chiefs on their mind. It's a big difference. So I just feel like the Jets and Dolphins are still in this chasing mode, just like back in the day when the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins were chasing the Patriots. And every year we would say the same shit. Oh, we got this guy in the draft, and Tom Brady's getting older, and they lost it. And it just was the same old story until a team can actually finally do it, win the division, and own the division. And I feel like the Bills have proven that. So I don't care who we lost, what guys we have hurt, until it's proven, then that's it. So I'm not saying don't be optimistic. Dolphins and Jets fans, I get it. Of course, we all should be optimistic. But the truth is the truth. And the truth is the Buffalo Bills have found a way every single season over the past 4 seasons to get the job done. The Dolphins have not. The Dolphins look sexy on paper, great on paper. But you saw last year what happened down the stretch.
That's where all the pinups come from. They look good on paper.
Yeah, exactly. The Jets, the same thing. You don't, and that I will give credit to the Jets. Their defense is solid, and all that being said, we don't know yet. We don't know yet about their offense. We don't know yet about what Aaron Rodgers will bring to the Jets. That is a question mark. We don't know yet.
Don't take that from him. Don't take that from him.
Listen, it's a reality.
It's not his show. It's your show. You're not going to take that.
We don't know, Curtis. A full season, you know this, right? And by the way, the Dolphins had the division won last year. It was
I can't hear you, Tommy.
It was
saying, Tommy. You're breaking up.
If you don't lose to the damn Tennessee Titans, you win the division. It's because you guys fell off. Things didn't go well. It happened.
No hablo.
So, hey, I'm sorry. Reality hurts. It hurts, but it's a long season. And Captain D is absolutely right when he says that.
He don't understand you either. He ain't hearing you.
Yeah, he understands. And by the way, too, all the national media, I want to say this. They are quick to jump off and on a team's bandwagon, mighty quick during the course of a season. So just because the Miami might be on a hot roll and then all of a sudden your Super Bowl, they will quick to jump off you and go to the Jets once the Dolphins lose a couple games. That's how they work. So don't get caught up in the emotion of national media and picking Super Bowl teams and they're the dominant team in week 6. It's a long ass season, man. So that's where I see my team. I see us as winning the East again. I think the Dolphins are in second and make the playoffs again. I think the Jets miss the playoffs. That's how I see it, because I think the Jets.
He's coming for you, Anthony. Don't take that. Don't take that, Anthony. I'll back you.
That's how I see it. That's how I see it. I think the Dolphins and the Jets right now are the team that's going to be battling for the East, just like they were last year.
What about us? Are we making the playoffs?
The Pats? No. No, the Patriots won 5 games. You are correct in that assessment of your team. I think the Jets, though, I think the Jets could win. If I was a prediction for each one, I would say the Jets win 10 games. I think they just miss it. But I think the AFC is so good, and the AFC East is so solid, and we're beating up on each other. It's just tough. It is really tough, this division, and it is. So I had the Dolphins going at 11 or 12 wins, and they're going to make the playoffs. And I think the Jets just miss it. That's how I see it, but it could go the opposite way. It definitely could. It definitely could. It's a long season. We'll find out. Anthony. That's why we're here, by the way, week after week.
I don't like it, Tommy.
It's not being cocky. Listen, it's not being cocky.
I don't know.
I'm trying to really stop. I swear I'm not being cocky. I'm just being real. Like,
pretty.
Listen, if we were on here in 2014, Zach would be like, "Yeah, motherfuckers, y'all talking that shit, but y'all ain't doing nothing." So
I'd be like 7 years old. But...
Yeah, young 7-year-old Zach would be like, "Yeah, motherfucker."
No, it's fair. I mean, until someone proves us all wrong and takes down the Bills, you and your fans and your team's fans have every right to say we'll be on top again because no one else has proven you otherwise.
Yeah, the problem is we're on top of the East, but we ain't top of the AFC. Like, that's our problem. Like, we can't figure out. We hit a wall in the playoffs, and it's terrible. But anyways, that's another story. So that's it, guys. We've been on here 2 hours and 15 minutes. I ran a little bit long, but it was awesome. What'd you guys think, man? Opening week. Y'all have fun, Zach, Anthony?
Yeah.
All right, man. All right. So next week, we will be on Zach, right? Zach will be hosting next week. So Zach, Shane, I'll get with you guys on that chat. I'll tweet it out where we're going to, the YouTube link and all that stuff, because I'm more than likely we're going to be on both, okay? So next week, Saturday, 4:00, we'll see you then. Captain D, any last words from anybody before we go? Curtis.
Let's go Jets.
Yeah.
I won't be here next week. I'll be celebrating the Dolphins' victory over the Bills.
Oh, please. All right. Anyways, go Bills. We're out of here. Peace.
Go Dolphins.
Bye-bye.
See, Peter, he's too fast.
You got to tackle me. It's B. You got to press B.
I'm pressing B. He's too fast.
Going over here? Going over here now? Never get tired.